this first one, it wants the ratio of adults to students. Okay, so we can see how many adults there are. There's 24, 180 students. Okay, but this is not complete because it wants it in simplest form. What we got to do is divide both of these by 12. And that would give you 2 to
Set the right fraction.
15.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, fraction. All right, students to buses. So you got 180. Yeah, we can write this as a fraction divided by 4. You can put this in the calculator. And it would give you 45? 45 to 1. So in other words, there's 45 students per bus. Finally, this last one, it wants the total number of
That's a unit rate.
buses to peoples. Yes, that was a unit rate. Very good. Well, there's 4 buses, and there are 204 peoples. So that would give you 1 to 51. So 1 bus to 51 peoples. So 9A, it tells you that it's a 26.2 mile race, and she did it in 1 hour and 18 minutes, and what was it, 27 seconds? Very good. All right, let's convert this into an hour. Okay, so it's 1 hour plus 18 minutes of the hour, so it's 18 minutes out of 60, plus 27 seconds out of an hour, which is 27 seconds. How many seconds are in an hour? Well, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, so 3,600 seconds in an hour, okay? Well, you can't add these until you have common denominators, so 1 would be 3,600 over 3,600 plus this one will be 3,600, but gotta take 18 times 60, which would give you 1080. Is that right?
Yeah.
Actually, I just memorized that one. Sorry. So plus 27 over 3,600. So we have common denominators now, which is 3,600.
Did anyone get that right?
Now,
I did.
very good. Yeah.
I didn't even try.
When you add all these together, you should get 4707. Is that right? That sounds good. All right. This tells you how many hours. So this is in hours. And what we want is miles per hour. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your 26 miles and divide it by this. So let's go there. We're going to take our 26.2 miles divided by 4707 over 3,600. Well, the problem with this is you're dividing by a fraction, so really what you'd have is 26.2 times the reciprocal of this. So it would be 3,600 divided by 4707. And if you do that in the calculator, you'll get that, what was it, 24.04 or something like that? 20.04?
No.
Let's look at some examples of some stuff that you guys will be doing more of today. Okay? Such as complex fractions. Okay? Now, some of you hear the word fractions, you guys freak out, but there's no need. All right?
No, it's the word complex.
A complex fraction means that there's just a fraction inside of the fraction. Okay? So, for example, let's look at t is 1. 9 divided by 3/2. Okay? Well, some of you remember that this big divide sign is a division, and it's better to write these horizontally, so it'd be 9 divided by 3/2. Okay? Yeah, I understand some of you freak out when you see this because I don't really know why. Okay, you just kind of freak yourself out. But once you see this, then all of a sudden it's much easier to do. Okay? Okay, well, and some of you realize once again, can you divide this fraction? No, you cannot. You can only multiply fractions. So you got to take the reciprocal, which would be 2/3, 9/1. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 times 3 is 3. 18 divided by 3, 6. Let's look at this example. Let's rewrite it once again. So this line, again, it's division. So let's rewrite this as 15/7 divided by 3/14. Okay? Well, now that we have that, can't divide by fractions, so let's take the reciprocal. 15/7 stays the same, but now you must multiply by 14/3. And this equals, some of you know you can cross simplify. It's a 5 and a 1, just dividing by 3. And over here, we can divide this by 7 and this by 7. So these ones cross out to 1 and 2. Finally, 5 times 2 is 10. Over 1 times 1 is 1. So the answer is 10. Examples in the book of Dana, who is skating laps to train for seconds for speed skating competition.
Easy.
No, you guys are liars. Notice she did 40 seconds in one lap. So how long would it take her to do half of a lap? 20 seconds in half a lap. Oh, it's half a lap. Okay. Write the ratio of Dana's time from exercise 2. So notice the ratio would be 20 divided by 1/2, which would give you this fraction, complex fraction, is equivalent to that fraction, 40/1. How do you simplify the ratio you wrote? Just divide by 1/2. Let's do these examples, okay? Now, I will point out in the book, sometimes it's kind of hard to understand which one this is a big line, okay? Because it's always the big one's division. It's always the one that's right next to the equals, okay? So that's divide. So on this one, you've got 9/10, which is the numerator. And you'll be dividing that by 9er, which, as it turns out, is a fraction. That phantom. But you can't divide fractions. You can only multiply them. 9/10 times 1/9. Well, if you were to work this one out, you'd get 9/90, which simplifies to 1/10. 5/6, and it's divided by 5 9ers. But you can't divide fractions, so you've got actually 5/6 times 9/5. And yeah, some of you pointed out you can simplify these. Divide by 5, divide by 3. So the answer here is 3/5. Point out, notice the book wrote this one as a mixed number. Nope.
What the heck?
Complex fractions, once again, it's just division of fractions. But you can't divide fractions, you can only multiply. Alright? And these examples are full of joy and happiness. Allie will do A.
Whoa. Okay. So you take 2, and then you divide it by 2/3. But instead, you switch it to multiplication, and you have to change the reciprocal. So it'll be 2/3. We'll change it to 2/1 times 3 over 2 equals 6 over 2. And then you divide it, which would be 4.
Good.
We good?
What? I got 3. I got 3. I got 3. Because 2 goes into 6 3 times. Oh, yeah, 3.
Very good. It is 3. Very good. All right, Brigham, we'll do C. Done. Very good. Tanner is going to do B.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wait. Just, I guess. What's 6 divided by 5?
Excellent work. So 18. What's happening with the calculator, all right? In the calculator, you're saying 6 divided by 1 divided by 3. It's doing the order of operations for you. So 6 divided by 1 is 6. Now it will divide by 3, which is 2. Well, that's not how it works, right? All right, Ashley will do D.
What?
Can you do that slower? All right, so that is good. Also, there are the answers, which you guys already got. It's good. Let's look at this one. The lawn company advertises that they can spread 7,500 square feet of grass seed 2.5 hours. Well, first thing you guys know, you don't want this to be a mixed number. Let's make that 5 halves. 5 half hours. Okay? Find the number of square feet of grass seed that can be spread in 1 hour. So notice this just told us that it wants it in square feet per, it says per hour, so per hour, okay? So that's 1 hour, that's our unit rate. So notice, our original fraction should have square feet on top and hours on bottom. Well, it did tell us that it was 7,500 square footages in 5 half hours. Complex fraction. So, as it turns out, you've got 7,500 divided by 5 halves, which really is 7,500 times 2 fifths, which equals as it equals
3,000.
That is correct. It's 3,000 square footages. There you go. 3,000 square foot per hour. These are unit rates. That is correct. Here is an example. So again, it wants it in miles per hour. So you're just going to take the miles, divide it by the hours. It's a complex fraction. Bam. Also, once again, do not use mixed numbers. So, here we go. Again, you're just dividing 1 in square feet per hour. So this divided by this, 46. 46 square footages per hour. Here's another word problem. Go ahead and try it out. There you go. Okay. Good. I hope you got those answers. And it isn't a mixed number, the jerks. So on this one, you would want to write this as 7/3. All right, here are some nice problems for you guys. All right, let's look at this one. We're talking about squirrels, chipmunks, and rabbits, which are all good eating. But sometimes they're kind of hard to kill with like a pistol or something. You need a shotgun. It'd be much better. All right. Well, one thing you guys need to know about all of this, especially for this particular lesson, is that 1 mile is the same as 5,280 foot. Another conversion you guys will want to know is that 1 hour equals 3,600 seconds. All right, now I'm going to show you guys the answer to 3, but notice it originally wanted this for squirrels. We're going to do it for chipmunks. All right. Notice it's asking, the chipmunk here, or the squirrel originally, was running at 10 miles per hour. Then it wants you to convert it into feet per second. We're going to do it the same thing, just with the chipmunk. All right?
Oh my God.
So let's look at that then. The chipmunk, he's going to run at 15 miles per hour. And we want this in feet per second. So let's go to the next page.
Why are we doing 2 lessons?
Because we're behind.
Slightly.
Did you get yelled at?
Slightly.
Is it really else?
Okay. So remember the squirrel, he's running at, that's a chipmunk. He's running at 15 miles per 1 hour. And we want to know what this is in feet per second.
I know why we were behind.
All right. So over here, I'm going to show that we want this in feet per seconds. Okay. Now notice you're taking miles and we're converting miles into foots. Okay, so that's one conversion. And we're also going to take hours and convert them into seconds.
Oh, I know.
All right, so we need, as it turns out, 2 fractions. These are all multiplied together. Okay? Now, let's look at feetses and miles. Miles is converting into feet.
5,280 feet.
We're converting those because they're both units of measurement, distance. Distance or measurement, okay? So they have to be compared to each other, feet and miles.
What page are you on?
Are you doing the homework?
No, where are you?
All right,
What page is he
now let's look at this one.
No one knows what page you're on.
Between these two, miles and feetses, we are on page 25. Miles and feets. Which is bigger, a mile or a foot? Mile. That means it will be the 1. 1 mile. The bigger one is always 1. How many feet is a mile?
5,000.
Yeah, we just went over that. 5,280. So that completes that fraction, okay? Now what we're going to do is take the hours, and we need to convert them into seconds. So notice hours is the denominator, seconds is also the denominator,
Wait,
and they're comparing seconds
15 miles.
to hours. Now, which of these two is bigger, an hour or a second?
A second.
Hour. How many seconds in an hour?
3,600.
3,600. Now all you're going to do is multiply these straight across, okay?
What are they?
So 15 times 5,280 times 1 equals
79200.
79200. And then you can do the same thing on the bottom. 1 hour times 1 mile times 3,600 seconds is 3,600. Now this isn't finished. You do have to divide these two numbers. Okay? So when in the end you should have, so on your calculators, go ahead and do that. 79,200 divided by 3,600, 22 feet per second. Now, the final answer, the denominator should always be 1 because it's a unit rate that we're finding. So that's why here in the denominator it's 1 second. All right, so let's come back to here, okay? Let me show you guys just an example with numbers and why this conversion stuff is working. Well, part of it, okay? The rest of it, science teachers can teach you because they are the children of math. All right, some of you realize, for example, if you took 2/3 and multiplied it by 9/8, right? Well, let's make that 9/2 so it's easier to see. Well, some of you remember cross simplification, right? I can cancel out those 2. Gone. You guys remember that?
Yes.
I could also cross simplify these. That's what we're doing with this, all right? So if you look here, notice how hours is on bottom and also on the top. It's canceled. Same with miles. Here you got miles on top, miles on bottom, cancel them. So what are you left with? Well, you got these feetses and these secondses. So that's why this label works. The numbers are just multiplication, okay? Remember, when you look at your fractions, what you want is to look at the units. Which of them is bigger is always the 1. Miles are bigger than feetses, so miles is 1 mile. Hours are longer than secondses, so it's 1 hour. Then you just replace this stuff with however many of those there are in the bigger one. So it's 5280 feet per mile. There's 3600 seconds in an hour. So those numbers go in those 2 spots. Then just multiply straight across. Okay. All right, if you guys did the squirrel, you'd get 10 miles per hour. 10 miles per hour, divide the, well, how could you? I guess they didn't really want us to find it. But it is right there anyways. 14.7 feet per second for the squirrel. All this page is going to do is tell you some really, really, really awesome conversions, both customary, which is what we use in America, and what the rest of the world uses. Metric. Okay? Also, after this unit, you guys are going to wish that we use metric because converting stuff in customary is the worst.
You have no idea.
See, some of you notice all of these are multiples of 10, so you're just crossing out zeros. In America, we make it really difficult.
Because we're smarter than everybody else.
Yeah. This miles per hour one is just like the one we just did. I'm going to re-explain it though so you guys can see. Alright? So let's take a closer look at this. 45 miles per hour. And we want this converted into feet per second. So I'm going to write this out as a fraction. 45 miles per 1 hour. Alright? Now notice, once again, I'm converting miles into feet. So I need 1 fraction. 1 fraction. Then also I'm converting hours into seconds. So I need 2 fractions. Okay? Let's look at miles first. So I'm converting miles into feet. Okay? Since feet is a form of measurement, miles is a form of measurement, I have to divide it by miles. Alright? Which is bigger, a mile or a foot? Mile. So it's 1 mile. How many foots? A mile. Very good. 5,280. And then I'm converting hours into seconds. So hours will convert to seconds. I'm comparing that with hours. Which is bigger, an hour or a second? An hour.
What?
How many seconds in an hour?
I'm starting to understand this.
So again, why did I put it as 1 hour? Because it's the bigger one. An hour is bigger than a second. So that's a good question. Again, the reason that is because the units are going to cancel. This miles will cancel that miles. Miles divided by miles is 1. It becomes the phantom 1. Okay. This hours is going to cancel out this hours. And what are we left with? Footsies and seconds. Okay. So in the end, you're going to have your footsies and seconds. But you do need to multiply 45 times 5280, which is some huge number that I don't know. Alright? So hopefully you will do that. What'd you get, Aubrey?
237600.
That's very good, thank you. 1 times 1 times 3600 is 3600. Okay. Well, you do need to divide those. That will give you footsies per 1 second. So what's 237,600 divided by 3,600? 66? Is that right? Sounds good. 66. So my answer, I just write 66. Because it's labeled for me already, which is beautiful. I'm going to start with this. It's 105.6 liters per hour. That's a big L. Liters. I'm going to write that as a fraction because the way the book has it written doesn't really help me out. 105.6 liters per hour. Let's look at what we need our answer to be in. Our final answer is in liters per minute. Okay, so I'm going to show that it's going to be in liters per minutes. Okay, so how many conversions do I need here?
You need 1, right?
Okay, well let's look.
3.
This one, what's my numerator on this one?
Oh, you need 1. 105.6.
Yes, we need 1 conversion,
I said that.
so we only need 1 fraction.
Okay.
That will convert it, okay? I'm just going to point this out, okay? It was 105.6 liters, and we're converting this into liters, so no need for conversion there.
So just put
This one, however, is converting from hours to minutes, so we do need a conversion there. It's 1 conversion out of the 2. So, notice once again we're converting hours to minutes, so it's converting to minutes, which will be compared to hours. Again, why is the hours on top? Why is it in the numerator here?
Because it's
Sierra.
Because you need to be able to toss them out. Oh, I get it.
Excellent. In the end, this is going to cancel out this one. The hours cancel out, and I would be left with whatever I'm left with, okay? So which is bigger, an hour or a minute?
Hour.
Hour's bigger. How many minutes in an hour? 60. Well, what's 105.6 times 1?
105.6.
Yeah, that's rough. 105.6. Lily, go in the hall. What's 1 times 60? 60. Okay, you guys have a calculator?
yeah.
Then divide it. Okay? What is it? 1.
What's no? It's 1 and 19 and 24. 1.76.
1.76 sounds good to me. This is liters per minute.
That doesn't seem right at all.
Oh, it's right.
It's not.
Because some of you are saying that this doesn't make sense. Okay, a liter.
That made sense.
So a liter, 2 liters is a soda bottle, right?
Yeah.
That was per hours. Since an hour is bigger than the minutes, you're gonna have something much smaller.
If you do
So,
another one, I will.
It'll be a much smaller amount of liter will come out in a minute than if you poured at the same rate in an hour. Okay? So Bridger says, which is the answer? Well, this one is the answer because it's a unit rate. Your answers for this homework assignment should always be unit rate. And also notice once again, and I hate doing this, but we're using decimals. People struggle with this one because now you're going from seconds, which is smaller than minutes, up 2 minutes. It's not a big deal.
So big.
The concept is still the same. Also, you're going from something smaller like a centimeter to a meter, which is bigger also, okay? Oh, yeah, right. Let's do it, okay? So again, I'm going to write this as a fraction, 26 centimeters. Do need the labels, all right? So make sure you're labeling these per second. And my final answer here is in meters per minute, right? So how many conversions doth we need? Do it. Yeah, we need 2, right? Because we're converting centimeters to meters. So that's our first conversion. And then we're converting seconds to minutes, which is our second conversion. Okay. Well, let's look at centimeters. We'll do the top one first. So centimeters, we're converting to meters. Okay. Both of those are distance, measurements, whatever. And so centimeters here on the bottom. Which is bigger, a meter or a centimeter? Meter. So it's 1 centimeter. 1 meter. Excuse me. How many centimeters in a meter? 100. All right, so that's going to take care of the centimeters, right? Centimeters here is going to cancel out. Not always. Okay. For example, let's look at seconds. Okay, so watch this. Seconds, what are we converting seconds into? Minutes. So I'm converting seconds to minutes, which is still on the bottom, right? So seconds has to be on top so that they will cancel. Okay, which is bigger, a second or a minute? A minute. How many seconds in a minute? 60. Okay. Now, once again, this is all multiplication garbage. Okay, so what is 26 times 60 times 1?
It's 1,560.
1,560. Thank you. And what's 1 times 100 times 1? 100. Now, some of you that know how to use decimals can know what the answer is very, very, very quickly. Others of you may cancel out that first 0. Whatever's good. But this would be 15.6 meters per minute.
Wait, there's a decimal there?
Well, and their spirits. Okay. Let me write this first. Again, I always write this first one as a fraction because it will tell me what goes on top and what goes on bottom. So 24 miles per hour. This one again is it's a conversion into feet per second. So my final should be in footsies per seconds. Okay? Well, how many conversions do I need here?
2.
I do need 2. Very good. Why do I need 2? Sierra?
Because you have to convert miles to feet and hours to seconds.
That is correct. So just so they can hear, miles to feet, hours to seconds. That's 2 conversions. So I have 2 fractions, okay? Miles is going to convert to footsies. So I'm comparing that to miles. Which is bigger, a mile or a foot? Mile. How many footsies in a mile? 5280. I'm converting hours into seconds. So I got hours here. So they cancel. Which is bigger, an hour or a second?
Hour.
Very good. Now I will say this, okay? The reason why we put the bigger one as 1 is because if you don't, then you have a horrible decimal that's really hard to work with, okay? You'd have to ask yourself how many hours are in a second. It's 0.0, I don't know, 1, 2, 1.03 or something like that, okay? Now all we can do is multiply straight across. So 24 times 5280 times 1.
I got 126,700.
720? Yeah, it's a big number, right? Very good. And then we got multiply all of the denominators. 1 times 1 times 3,600. 3,600. And this will give me, I just need to divide those, right? So you got feetses per 1 second. So what's 126,720 divided by 3,600?
35.2.
Wow, that was pretty good. So 35.2 footsies per second. Done. There's your answers to these. So we just did these. These are ones we just did. Okay. All right. Well, good job.